So, Cuba. Much in the conversation the last 2 years as the Obama administration began opening the doors to travelers to that country, and U.S. airlines began serving that country, and a couple cruise ships started sailing around. And then the Trump campaign came up, and the question about Cuba and whether Americans' access to that country will continue unabated or even expand will continue out. It's what I wanted to talk about with my next guest, James Shillinglaw. He's an expert, particularly on cruise ships and so on. James is the editor-in-chief of the Insider Travel Report. James, nice to have you here with us this weekend.
Great to be with you, Rudy.
So we've got a couple ships serving Cuba, and it's interesting. The first 3 weeks now of the Trump administration, I haven't heard anything about Cuba, and I think people were expecting him to make a bold statement about something.
No, he seems to be busy with other things lately, and fortunately not Cuba. I actually think that we've gone too far with Cuba tourism to roll it back now. And you said a couple of ships. We actually have upcoming almost every single major cruise brand will be in Cuba this year.
Really? So that's how many?
Yeah.
How many? Is that 6?
Actually, many more. I actually just got back from a Celestial Crystal cruise. That's a Greek Cypriot line that not too many people know about. But they have a ship based full-time in Cuba. It does a circumnavigation of the island. It's an amazing cruise. You visit Santiago de Cuba, Havana for 2 nights, and Trinidad. But that's a brand that people don't know very much, but it does a complete Cuba cruise. But Royal Caribbean and its other brand, Azamara Club Cruises, they're both going to be in Cuba, particularly in Havana. Norwegian Cruise Line just announced extended sailings through the end of the year. Oceania Cruise Line's going to be there. Regent Cruise Line's going to be there. And, of course, Carnival, which started this whole thing off with the Fathom brand, is going to be there eventually. Fathom is actually is sort of in eclipse now by June, but it is offering cruises of Cuba through June. And then Carnival is promising at least 1 to 3 other brands will feature sailings. And
wow.
This is only the tip of the iceberg.
Well, now tell me, you just got back from a cruise around Cuba. Is it an effective way to see Cuba? Do you feel like you saw Cuba if you're basing many of your meals and your lodging on a ship?
Well, actually, part of the experience is to go out and have meals on land extensively. Okay. And in fact, almost every day we were in Cuba, whether it was Santiago de Cuba or Havana or Trinidad, we had a meal at a local restaurant that's privately owned, sometimes very often with music or dancing. It's actually a wonderful way to see Cuba. I'm sure, yes, going on land, and there are extensive land programs available for major U.S. operators, is one way to go, but to see it by sea is really a great way to do it, too.
All right, I'll take that endorsement. Your job is to keep a finger on the pulse of all kinds of cruise experiences, whether ocean cruises or around Cuba or river cruises. Focusing on Cuba, do you get the impression from the cruise executives you talk to that these cruises are going out full?
The answer is yes. And in fact, Cuba continues to be an attraction. Fathom, which started out as a kind of a social do-good cruise to the Dominican Republic and quickly turned into the Cuba cruise, just added Santiago to its Dominican Republic cruises, I think, in an effort to make sure the ship is full. Certainly the Celestial cruise I was on was almost full. We'll have to see what happens with the other lines that are really beginning, I think, in March with the major U.S. brands, whether they'll sail full. But I think that's usually part of a larger Caribbean cruise. So Havana certainly is a great attraction, and Havana was actually the highlight of our cruise.
5-night cruises, 6-night cruises, what?
These are mostly, the circumnavigation cruises are 7 nights.
Huh.
They can go a little bit more, and there are only 3 brands now currently offering them. It's Pearl Seas is another American brand that's going in there and just started service. They're more of a luxury line.
James,
Celestial,
James, I'm sorry to interrupt you. We have about 5 seconds left. Are these cruises considered expensive?
It depends. Celestial is a very affordable cruise, and you can go all the way up to Regent, which is, has Cuba as a port, and that will be a luxury cruise.
All right. Thanks very much. James Shillinglaw, very much. James.